So the people who, not everyone wants to be leaders, especially in difficult circumstances. If you're being trying to organize a rebellion, the most dangerous person to be is the leader. And so she does make decisions, but they can end up being catastrophic because she doesn't go hard enough. She's not brutal enough to make the decisions that have the most likely guarantee of success, because she should have killed Joel as soon as they arrived. She should have killed Joel.
Yeah.
Because that, I think, if it had been Tess, if Joel had died and Tess had brought her all that way, I think Tess would have I don't think Ellie would have been able to touch Tess.
Yeah.
Particularly.
Yeah.
And it certainly wouldn't have been the same. I think Tess could have been. She wouldn't have reacted the way Joel reacted. And I think that if Joel and Tess had both made it there, I think Tess would probably have killed Joel to allow this to happen.
Or talked him down. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you're right. Yeah, go on.
But Marlene, I think that's why I thought there was a relationship between Marlene and Joel, because it makes no sense. When I was watching the episodes, I was thinking, like, why is she letting him go? I mean, why not, at the very least, keep him locked up until they've done what they need to do? I mean, it's easy to me, but then, but she knew how Joel was and what Joel had done to get there. She hadn't had an idea about that. Must have heard about some of what had happened, and she chosen why my view is probably wrong, but the reason why I thought that they'd chosen Tess and Joel to do this was because they were, so there's a. But I suppose they were only supposed to take her to that one vehicle, weren't they? They weren't supposed to take her all the way. But even so, I still felt like it was like, why? Either kill him or keep him locked. Don't release him.
Yeah. And I think it's an interesting point of when she only knows Joel from, if I remember rightly, she's only ever seen the completely broken, blunt, unemotionless. He's like just a blunt instrument, and to look at someone like that, you can't imagine they've got anything beneath that, because you just think, oh, he's just a brutal, violent man, and a little girl won't change him at all. But because she had no idea about Sarah. If she'd known about Sarah, I think she definitely would have killed him, because then you'd realise, oh, that's why he has changed so much since then. So straight away, not killing him, and then so before that happens, they've got Ellie again. She starts surgery straight away, and so that's number one. Thinking, are we're going to force her to do this? It doesn't matter what happens. We're going to force her to do this. So if you're going to force her to do this, give her the mercy of being able to talk to Joel, because then that's the only thing that might have stopped him.
Yeah.
And so two massive mistakes. But again, it's not only on Marlene the decision to operate on her right away. I think they all just panicked and went, "Oh my God, we've got it here! I can't believe this is going to work." And Yeah,
Also, they probably don't want to think too much about it. I mean, I think there's also an element of, that it's a Sophie's choice. It's a very challenging situation, even if you know that it's the right thing to do, morally, or I don't know, practically, still a moral conundrum. That there's that puzzle, isn't there, about the I can never remember how it goes, but about the two trains that are going along the track, and which one who do you save and what do you do? And these are just impossible situations for people to kind of get their head around. And probably the easiest way to manage that is to do as little connecting with Ellie as possible. So, just yeah.
And then Joel. Oh, it's so difficult watching what he does next. And it was I wonder if people who didn't know, who haven't played the game, I imagined he would just fight his way up to the top floor and rescue Ellie and then escape. And you can understand and forgive that, because that's how like 99% of other stories like this go. So someone's trying to take his daughter away. He's going to do whatever it takes to save her. And I don't know. I've criticised the spectrum of violence in this. Again, I feel like they made Joel. You can still think of him as noble. He's done bad things, but he is a noble person. That's what comes, and you understand his decision to do what he did, which they overexposed with the suicide story. So they go, "Oh yeah, these are the stakes for him in extremely explicit terms." And then at the start of the rampage in the game, it's completely different to how it is in the show. So in the show, he just punches someone, grabs a gun, shoots one, and then shoots the other one in the knee. And then when he doesn't answer the question, he shoots him in the head. He says, "I don't have time for this," and shoots him in the head. That's really bog standard, run of the mill. Wouldn't phase anyone. But in the game, he's alone with someone, and he shoots him in the pelvis. He goes, "Where is she?" Doesn't say anything. Shoots him in the pelvis. Still doesn't say anything. Shoots him again in the pelvis. And the guy's, oh, and then he tells him. That is so brutal and monstrous. That's the side of Joel which I don't think we saw enough of in this. Did that stand out to you in terms of like the violence of the rampage compared to the violence of the rampage in the game?
Yeah, I have to lay my cards on the table right now and say that for me, this last episode fell of it that were awesome, but though it just didn't hit the mark as a final episode. It was also, I think, one of the shortest episodes, and it just felt like it needed another half hour, and then they could have done justice to this rampage, because they did it without any noise as well. It was just music, wasn't it, or something? There was a lot of silent bits, so you didn't hear it all. And I know I'm not going, I mean, you and I have very different views on how much violence situations, and I don't like gratuitous violence. But I do agree with you that that scene just really kind of almost normalized it. I think that they showed it like, oh, he's just walking through the hospital killing people because he wants to get to his daughter, and it's okay. because any normal person, and it's like, no, it is not okay. It is extremely violent, very unreasonable, and there might have been another way of doing things. The game is just very violent, even more violent, and I do have moments when I'm playing. I don't remember feeling it so much in the first one, but in the second one, I definitely have moments where I'm like, I don't really want to have to kill all these people. I feel like there could have been another way for me to make it through the game without having to kill quite so many people. Because I think that when it's made more casual, which is what I trying to minimize the last scene of that scene. It wasn't the last scene, but I think what they actually did was they made it more horrific because they kind of normalized it and they kind of washed it out a bit. And so for me, I think more problematic than if they shown and selfish in a lot of ways man Joel can be. And I did what I felt, because I feel quite strongly that there was a bit of that the patriarchy is very clear in this bit, because I feel I like Joel, and I like the relationship that he and Ellie have, and I know he's been through tough times, and I think I would be on the wrong side of him, but I do like the character in the context. However, because I feel like Ellie knew what she was sacrificing and had made her peace with that and was okay to do that, even though obviously we don't know what happened to her before, but she doesn't talk afterwards and say like, oh, they struck me down and they forced. And what right did Joel have to storm in there and take that to rescue her like she was some kind of princess in a tower, and he storms up there through killing all these people and walks in and rescues. That is such a example of patriarchal fatherhood. It just felt really but that's my feminist
I think
anger.
that the thing that is painted so perfectly throughout this episode is that everyone's right and everyone's wrong. Joel is right to go and kill everyone standing between him and his daughter. He's also completely wrong to do that thing. He's completely right to murder the doctor because he's the only one who can do anything with Ellie. And he's completely wrong because it dooms humanity. The Doctor and Marlene are right to work on Ellie without her permission as soon as possible. They're also completely wrong to do that. And Ellie is, as soon as they've been flashbanged, Ellie, the next thing Ellie knows is she wakes up in the back of the car.
Yeah.
She doesn't, so they took her choice away from her.
Yeah.
Joel took it away in a secondary way, but it had already been taken from her. And this rampage, it felt like it was a bit of a, didn't stand out in any way. And my problem with it is that, again, we come out of it even after Joel kills the Doctor. I think he just shoots the Doctor. And that shooting the Doctor, and that is, if you look at that and you can't 100% go, he's wrong and he's right and he's wrong, but he's not the same person I thought he was. You can still love him and care about him, but you know that he's done something completely terrible and unforgivable and irredeemable. And then from this, where are you now in the second game?
I am on Seattle day 3, nearly at the end of that section, I think.
Cool. So, at the start, I don't know if you know all of it. Shit. No, I'll wait until when we do a episode about that, we can talk about that. I believe it's the absolute linchpin of everything, and if you don't get that bit right, then it really dampens down the rest of it.
But you probably think that because it's in hindsight, and that's the best thing about linchpins, isn't it? Because nobody knows that they are until later, and you look back and you go, "Oh, that was the moment that everything changed," or "That was the key moment."
Yeah, I feel like with that hindsight as well, and my problem with a lot of the violence in the show, none of it has been particularly unique. So I've used the example before of in the Dark Knight Batman film, the Joker with the pencil, who just sticks on the table and goes bang. No blood, no noise, no nothing, just bang, thud. And it doesn't. There's almost no blood in the Batman films, and there's also Sam Raimi, who did the Evil Dead films and the original Spider-Man films. He has that knack for shocking violence that doesn't require blood. And when they cut out him torturing the first guy, that is sanitizing Joel to the detriment of the darkness of the character. And so and also there's just the element of violence in the games is so intimate because you're right there doing it, and it feels extremely visceral. Another patriarchy thing, which I want to do an episode with all of us about violence at some point, because thinking about us talking about it here and our different views on it, women are not raised to be violent. Women are raised to what's the word I'm after? To accept violence, to accept male violence, to accept that men are supposed to be violent and women are supposed to not fight them. So there's a really interesting conversation about the nature of violence and how we're brought up seeing it. A problem with a lot, I don't know, I'm interested to hear what you think about this. In most games I've ever seen, and most film and TV, everything, until very recently, all the enemies that you fight are male. You very rarely find yourself fighting women. And that can only, for men killing men, that's casual, that's neutral, that's sanitized. There's nothing special about that. So Joel can mow down 30 men, and that doesn't impact. He can still be noble and do that. I felt that if they really wanted to shock us the way that to give that impact that I felt playing the game, he doesn't do this in the game, but he could have shot the nurses. I feel like, because I think he just shoots the doctor. In the game, the doctor has the knife, and if you try and walk past him and not shoot him, the doctor tries to stab you, and then you stab him in the neck with the knife.
Yeah.
So if you put yourself in Joel's shoes there, because most people go in there, no one wanted to shoot the doctor. I can't imagine anyone walking into that room actually wanting to shoot the doctor. And
No.
then the first time you do, you go, oh shit, I didn't want to do that. Reload, come in, try and walk past, stab in the neck. So there's no way through that segment without a shocking bit of violence.
Yeah.
But still, with everything else we've discussed, Joel can come out thinking, oh, I understand. It makes sense. I can redeem him. But there's something about when a man deliberately kills a woman in any kind of thing, which is so interesting considering the amount of violence against women in society. That if he'd killed the doctor and then shot the nurses because he'd be thinking they're medical personnel, it would have been in the same thing. Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that. Well, I find it difficult because I don't want to advocate showing violence against women.
Yeah.
But I think it is really interesting. I think that this idea that men are violent creatures and they can't really help themselves. And if they're doing something for noble reasons, then anything is okay. And yes, I do think there are, like, again, sort of tropes that we employ in games and TV to allow the hero to behave in extremely unacceptable, still be heroic. So often we find that at the end of as some situation, hero has been fighting, the bad guy will die by their own hands somehow. They might fall off a cliff, or something else, like a monster will come and eat off,
Yeah.
fall into they'll get blown up. There are things that happen where the hero is absolved of the bad guy's death, even though up until that point they will have killed loads of people and caused loads of injuries and trauma and drama along the way. So it's this weird double standards. And I think you raised the point about, like with violence against women and girls is endemic in our society world. It is happening in the place all the time, and yet we have this attitude that men don't hurt women, men aren't violent to women, and that does nothing. It's not the truth, and it doesn't help us to tackle the problem. So yeah, I think it would have been more shocking if he had shot the nurses because they were just the support crew. But it's a shame that in order to recognize his level of lost the plotness, to mute him, that he would have to do that. In order to shock us, we'd have to see him hurting innocent women. Is kind of says quite a lot we are as a society, really, and how normalized violence is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, it's that the absolution is that's such a that's such a you just opened my eyes going, oh yeah, that is literally everything. Like in Die Hard, at the end, it's sort of there's this sort of this flurry of action, and then the villain falls out a window, and so it's not as simple as you walk through a door and the final villain is a doctor with a scalpel and you shoot them. You get in your position. So what is good and noble is you vanquish your foe and then you show them mercy.
Yeah.
Because you're a good person, you're a hero. And if they die, you don't have to show them mercy.
No.
So they die, you win. The hero is absolved. But when you in cold blood murder a civilian, that's one thing. When you kill other soldiers, that's nothing.
Yeah.
When you kill a civilian, he was that's grey, but you can absolve him of that because he was in an emotional state and all the other things, all the other reasons. There's a reason why sexual assault is so rarely portrayed honestly in media in general, because there is no noble absolving reason for anyone to sexually assault someone.
No.
That is a behavior that cannot be. You can't be a hero and do that.
No.
You can be a hero and kill infinite men. You have to, the point with Joel that I don't think they captured well enough is his and taking an action that is completely irredeemable. You can't 100% redeem or absolve him of it.
No.
And down to the final like part of the episode, which is basically him. They've left the hospital and on the way to Jackson, and we're split as he tells Ellie this made up story to him, his confrontation with Marlene. Having said he kills Marlene in cold blood. That's the coldest I think we've seen him overall. Interestingly, that didn't feel like Marlene is a woman, and the two nurses were women, but it really felt Marlene was placed into that soldier place, and so that, and she really her gender is just completely has nothing to do with her character at any point in the story, which is rare for when women are given. They're usually saddled with some kind of, oh, she had kids, or she's got kids and she lost one of them, and that's why she's there. But because her gender is so completely divorced from all of it, Joel killing her just felt like another natural part of him killing all those soldiers on the way up.
Yeah.
How did you feel about Joel and Marlene at the end?
Yeah. I mean, I think it was just. I felt a little bit sorry for her because I felt like she could have killed him and she didn't, and she understood that he was upset about what. So she had shown a little bit of compassion to him, and he did not repay that. So I think from that perspective, but I agree with everything that you've said about how she was, that she was female wasn't key part in this and her role in this. I think it for me it was good. Yeah, it fitted with the cold Joel that we wanted to see, but it just wasn't supported by the rest of that scene. I think was the main issue.
And I think you put it perfectly earlier on. Joel. So the final scene, all of it is Joel just flatly lying to Ellie. He's been honest with her, and the honesty of him culminated with him saying that he tried to kill himself, and that being with her healed that pain of losing Sarah. So they've built this relationship, this partnership, and Joel does absolutely everything from the moment he wakes up with Marlene is just completely selfish. He's not doing it for, I don't think he's not doing it for Ellie herself.
No.
I think he's doing it for himself because he can't let that happen to himself again.
Yeah.
And I think that just it's a really heartbreaking dynamic for the two of them to have. Because I think Ellie knows from the second he starts talking in the car that he's lying to her.
Yeah.
And the Joel just from that moment on, it feels like Joel's selfishness has put a massive wall between the two of them.
Yeah.
And that wall really, it kind of ruins the relationship in a lot of ways. Because we see a lot more of it in the second game. And it just really feels like, and it's all Joel's fault. Joel's the one who he won in this world of everyone trying and striving for different things. Marlene trying to defeat the Fedra, and the doctors trying to make a vaccine, and David trying to build his weird paedophile harem. They were all fighting for something, but Joel won. He's the one that got what he wanted. But it's not as simple. Him winning has catastrophic consequences for everyone in the world.
Yeah.
And also catastrophic for Ellie.
Yeah. And and as you say, it ruins the only relationship that he has, really. The only loving, caring relationship that he had. Because he betrays everyone because he wants something that died at the start. I mean, he can't get his daughter back, and I think, absolutely. I think it's really sad. It's a really sad ending. And it has, based on the second game, it has far-reaching consequences and leads to the death of many, 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 many people.
Yeah, and that's all. It's all because Joel made sure that he won.
Yeah.
So everything from that moment on, you have to. It's impossible to argue that it's not Joel's fault. You can understand what he did, but you can't absolve him of everything that happens afterwards. And a really interesting line that he has, he says it several times, especially he says it to Tommy and then a couple more times. Whenever he explains what he did at the hospital, he just says they were going to kill you, the treatment would have killed you, and I stopped them. That's because he knows that if he told anyone the details of what he did, that no one would accept him for that. Even when he tells Tommy, that's all he says to him, because he knows what he did is wrong, but he doesn't. He hides it all.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I can't. I think I've said everything I can think of. Is there anything else you want to add on the end?
Yes, I want to add a more positive note to end on, which is that the final episode was also the giraffe scene, which in the game made properly cry because it was so beautiful and so lovely, and I didn't remember it the way that it happened in the show, and when I saw it I was like, "That I've gone back and watched the two sides and they barely changed it actually." But yes, that scene just made me like and it's really interesting because in my memory I don't remember the it being so close to the end. I just but I did remember that it just really got me. It was such a like just a really beautiful. I think I just really felt what Ellie felt. You know, this amazing sight, and this is how memory how nature can come back, you know, and nature will go on even if humanity is having this fight. So yeah, no, I just wanted to mention that because it is a beautiful and awesome scene.
Yeah, I think the real potency of that scene and why they got an actual giraffe in to do it rather than doing CGI, and why it was so important in the game is Joel is looking at the life on the horizon. He's like, I've got a daughter again. I'm going to teach her to play guitar. We're gonna I'm going to live to a ripe old age, and she's going to live to a ripe old age, and we're going to have a wonderful life from now. And at the start of the episode, Ellie's just her spider sense is tingling. But then when she sees the this awesome, can you imagine? There's no zoos in the apocalypse. They've never seen anything like that. And then this great big beautiful thing comes and you see that, and then Ellie and Joel at the same time feel that emotion of there's a beautiful, wonderful life possible ahead of us.
Yeah.
And I wonder. I think it was, yeah, that their decision to rush Ellie into surgery straight away and not wake her up or anything. If they'd followed through and done that to Joel as well, that would have been.
Mm.
Then it would have been on Marlene and the doctors. The world after that would have been on them.
Yeah.
And even if Ellie had been awake and had decided she wanted to do it, do you think Joel would have let her? And
No,
what do you think he would have done?
I think he would have just taken her. I think he would have said, "Oh no, you don't know what you would have just taken her." Because I think well, as I said, I think she knew what she was potentially sacrificing, and he knew. I know he didn't know, they didn't talk about it, so, but he did ask her if she didn't want to go ahead, and she said, I do want to go ahead. So I think he would have just done it anyway. I don't think it was about really. I think it's about him and his loss and his grief and all of that. Which I'm
Yeah,
sad to say because I like Joel. I don't want to say that, but I think that is the case. He's a bad guy, Matt.
yeah,
Just a bad guy doing bad things for rubbish
yeah.
reasons.
Or he's a heroic person doing heroic things for heroic reasons. And it's just it's a real. You have to give your hats off to the caliber of the writers of the original game for building this story that is still. We've talked for probably 8 hours over the course of the last couple of months talking about this. Still 10 years after the original game.
Yeah, no, it's awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited for season 2.
Yeah, and I am loving this actually. I've been playing it
Mm.
last week again, and yeah, it's really good. I'm really bad at it, but it's a really good game.
That's awesome. Shall we cap it off there?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So thank you very much, everyone, for watching or listening and following us along with this. Yeah, I think that's enough.
Yeah.
We will see you every Thursday at 7 p.m. and see you next time. Bye bye.
Bye.